Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Stephanie told me to hold the mic up to my mouth, and it sounds like I am blowing myself out up here. But I got to compete with the air conditioner and the rain tonight, so I'm going to try to hold a little bit closer. Maybe you can hear me a little bit better. Are you glad to be here tonight? Absolutely. We had a good time with the Lord this morning. Great singing, great message, and we're just going to continue that. Anytime we get to enter into the Lord's house, it is a good time, right? So we're going to enjoy that tonight. Before we get started, we want to make sure that we open it up to prayer requests. Does anybody have any prayer requests they want to mention tonight? What's that? Miss Cheryl's feeling a little bit better. That's good news. Prayer works, don't it, Miss Mary? You come up and got anointed this morning, all of a sudden she's feeling great. So that's awesome. Yes?
My mother.
Miss Karen?
Yes,
Miss Karen fell and hurt her back. Y'all be in prayer for her. If you can, reach out to her and let her know you're praying for her. Anyone else? All right. If you would stand with me, we're going to say a prayer over the prayer request, and then we're going to open up with some songs. So let's enjoy tonight. Relax and have a good time. Dear God, thank you so much for tonight. God, even though it's raining, God, it doesn't matter. That's sweet nectar from you, God. We just love you and thank you. And we give you praise for Miss Cheryl feeling better tonight. God, there's nothing like prayer. There's nothing better than answered prayer. So we thank you for that. Be with Miss Karen as she recovers from falling down. God, we just love you and we thank you. We give you praise tonight. And only you. God, let us lift up our voices to you tonight and give you praise for everything you do. In Jesus' name. Please continue to stand as we sing.
try the right chord. That was really great. I am weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I want to be gone with you. Amen. I know we did this song just like what was it, a week ago? I feel, it's one of those things, you know, you try not to repeat something week after week because people get really tired of a song really quick. But you know, this week when life is going on, you just don't expect things. I was in Memphis on Wednesday, and I just pulled up to the job. It was a real complicated job, real small, hard to get in and out with the big truck. People are moving trucks out the way, and my son called me. And I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to, I'm not allowed to, I guess, with social media nowadays. But he called me and he said, Dad, I said, I was just thinking about you. I hadn't heard from you since Monday. My son calls me every day on the way home, we talk. And he called me, he said, Dad, I haven't gotten out of bed since Monday. I said, oh, and he said, I got fever in my stomach. And my son never misses work. So I got all upset instantly, you know. He said he was going to the doctor, which it took 24 hours for us to find out anything, which is a whole nother nightmare in itself. And to say today he's better, don't get me wrong, it took a few days, but in that moment, you know, when you're all full of chaos and full of just panic as a parent, I couldn't do anything, but I just kept singing this song to myself because it's the only thing that could just, you know, calm you down enough. So that's why we're doing it tonight, because I tried to figure out what I was going to do all week. I couldn't figure it out. You know, sometimes I'm sure Sister Betty will tell you when you're picking out music, you can't nail it down sometimes. And this song was always there. I couldn't get away from it. So.
Without you, I
want to take an opportunity to make sure we recognize the worship team. They always do a tremendous job in getting us prepared for the message. So thank you very much to everyone. And if you remember not so long ago on Sunday nights, we didn't have any singing. So to have singing on Sunday nights is a blessing. So thank you very much for everybody and all the effort put into it. And I also want to make sure that I mention a few other things this afternoon. You may or may not have noticed, but we have new lights in here. Brother Ronnie and Jody put these lights up. These are LED lights. It's really good for efficiency, and I've been told it makes me look really good on camera. So it doesn't glare so much off my head, I guess. I don't know. But thank you, Brother Ronnie, for that. There's a lot of things that happen in and around our church that doesn't get noticed. And somebody put American flags all around the cemetery. Anybody know who did that? Brother Ronnie, thank you for that too. I thought about it right before I got up here, and I said, you know what? We got the 4th of July weekend, and before I get into the lesson tonight, I want to make sure that anybody have a testimony they want to share tonight. I've got a real brief one, but if y'all have one, I'd like to hear from you tonight too. How about a collective one? Is everybody glad to be living in the United States of America? Amen. So we had the opportunity to be with my family yesterday at Candy Lake, and a lot of times when you do that, you can take it for granted and assume it's always going to be there, or you may just take a moment just to appreciate the fact that you can do it. And in our country today, we still have freedom of religion, and we still have the freedom to assemble and be around each other and enjoy those things. So we should always be thankful for that, and that's kind of my testimony for tonight, is that, it's not like that everywhere around the world. Not everybody gets to worship the way they want to. In a lot of cases, they can't even get around their family and do things. So it's 4th of July, it's Independence Weekend, so it just really kind of touched me this week. Does anybody else have one? Mine's good enough? Okay. So tonight's lesson, when you teach or you preach or whatever, sometimes you really struggle to get a lesson together. Sometimes you can be on a Saturday night saying, God, I've been thinking all week and I've been studying all week and nothing's coming through for me, and I don't know what you want me to talk about. That was not the case for me this week. I knew early on what I was going to talk about this week, and God works that way. I think God can talk to you in a still small voice and say, hey, this is what I want you to cover tonight because I think it's important. And it's just a journey. Anytime you put yourself out there, you're going to have those times when you're trying to figure out what to say and what not to say or how to say it or whatever. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. And the title of the lesson tonight is Jesus the Good Shepherd. And we've heard that a lot of times, right? We've all been in church for a number of years. We've heard Jesus the Good Shepherd. And I think it's really important to understand why a shepherd in those times is so important. If you think about sheep was very, very important to those people at that time. Number one, for warmth. They used the wool for clothing and everything else. Meat and sacrifice in the Old Testament. Sheep was a valuable commodity, right? They're so valuable that unlike today when we have cattle in the field and they're fenced in and everything, in those days they had to have a shepherd to watch over the sheep and make sure it was taken care of. Not only from lions and tigers and bears, but also other people stealing their sheep, right? So they always had to have somebody there. And I actually want to go over 3 parables tonight that Jesus was talking to a group of tax collectors and sinners. Okay? And he gave all 3 of these parables in a row. And I think the message that we're going to hear tonight is very clear about what Jesus was telling not only the tax collectors and the sinners, but also the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Okay? Because in those days, the Pharisees and Sadducees did not associate with sinners. Now I want you to think about that just for a second before we dive into this. They did not associate with sinners. They were very religious people of the time, and they studied the law, the Mosaic law, to the T, and they knew it. Paul was part of that group, right? But they did not associate with sinners. And I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this tonight, because my question is, do we associate with sinners? And given the opportunity to associate with sinners, what do we do? And I want you to keep that in mind as we go through it tonight. So if you want to open up, we're going to be in Luke, the 15th chapter, starting in verse 1. And like I said, we're going to talk about 3 parables. They're not very long, but they have a very, very powerful meaning. Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 1. It says, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered," and this is very important to the lesson tonight, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." This man welcomes sinners and eats with them. And what were they saying there? You know, the whole time that Jesus was talking to that group, and they always stood around trying to find something he said wrong, they were trying to pin him down on something that went against the law. Right? They were trying to find something they could holler out, "Oh, heresy, heresy, listen to what he's saying." But think about that. The religious rulers of the time did not associate with sinners. And not only did they not associate, they're calling him out for associating with sinners. Now, all of us in here should take a little bit of offense to that because why? Because we've all sinned and come short of the glory of God. So that would mean they did not or would not associate with us. Now, I want you to think about that really strong and hard, because what if somebody didn't associate with us? What if you didn't know Jesus the way you know him today? What if nobody took the time to do that? And I think it's really, really cool how Jesus responded to them. You know, I don't know what their angle was, but they're dealing with the Savior of mankind. And they always thought they were going to put him in his place at some point. But they didn't realize that he already knows everything. And whenever they tried to pull that trick on him, he already knew what he was going to say. And he had the coolest way of making his point without just telling them to go jump under a rock. Right? And let's keep on reading. "Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose you are one who has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he hopefully puts it on his shoulder and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, 'Rejoice with me. I have found my lost sheep.' I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous people who do not need to repent." Some questions come to mind when you think about that parable, and it's the parable called the lost sheep. And I wrote some of those questions down tonight. Number one, it says he left the 99 sheep. And some people may say, "Hey, well, that's all fine and dandy. What about the 99 sheep?" But what it doesn't tell you is how much time he spent with the 99 sheep already. How much prayerful time, how much time rejoicing, how much time celebrating, right? And it comes to my mind, it's kind of like the 99 sheep are those of us probably here tonight. We've accepted Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, and we're doing all we can to live a good Christian life. But the thing that I'm concerned about sometimes, what happens when we go out these doors? What about people that don't know him? What about that lost sheep out there? And I think that's the point that Jesus was really trying to get to tonight, is that, hey, I get it. I've got 100 sheep. 99 of them are solid. I spent time with them, healing them, and praying with them, and being there for them. But there's that one out there that does not know me. That's what I want to talk about tonight, the one that does not know him. The truth is, church, most of those that do not know him probably won't darken that door. It happens. But do you agree with me that most won't darken that door? Most will be on the outside of this door. And if we're going to really talk about the parable of the 99, we really have to focus on the one. Who is it out there that don't know God? You know, the truth is, in our country, when you see everything that's going on, one thing we have to keep in mind, is it dark in our country right now? Are bad things happening in our country right now? Absolutely. We also know that the light shines brighter the darker it is. The light shines brighter the darker it is. There are people out there that don't know Jesus Christ, and they're struggling right now. And they'll grab onto anything that comes their way. If it's a riot, if it's law breaking, if it's whatever, they're going to grab onto it because they're looking for something. They don't even know what it is, but they got to have something. And us as Christians, as disciples, we have to continue on that one that's lost. Find them. Talk to them. And share Jesus Christ. Unfortunately and ashamedly, I haven't shared the gospel with anybody new in a long time. I have not shared the gospel with anybody new in a long time. And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but answer that question in your mind. When's the last time have you shared the gospel with somebody new? That's something I've got to look at myself and say, hey, if we're going to preach and we're going to teach and we're going to talk about the 99, Jesus has put us in control with the Great Commission to go out and do just that one thing. Share the gospel. If we want to change the world, if we want the world to be a better place, I've got to quit talking and start acting. Jesus' point was for the Pharisees was they shouldn't lose focus on the lost souls out there. In that time, given in that period, all they worried about was what? Power. Power. Have you seen a starve and a desire for power in this country? It's everywhere. Everybody wants power. And that's what they were then. The politicians, you didn't hear a whole lot about it back in those days, but the religious rulers you heard a lot about. They were the power structure of the time, and they guided a lot of that. But what they didn't do, and I can imagine in my mind, they're walking around with rings and robes and everything else on, the big tall hats. I don't even know what that means. But the truth is, that's all that was. Jesus didn't call for an army of religious people. He's calling for an army of believers. You can be religious and not be Christian. Did you know that? But he's calling on an army of believers to do his work. We're going to go right into another parable. We're continuing on. This is Luke 15, 8 and 10. And think about this as we're going through this. Jesus gave 3 very good illustrations of what he's talking about in a row. So if you ever want to do a Sunday school lesson and you don't know what to do it on, this is a very good one. There's 3 parables in a row that all have a similar meaning. Let's read on here. It says, or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and her neighbors together and says, rejoice with me. I have found my lost coin. In the same way I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Rejoicing over one sinner who repented. And I ask you today, because it bothers me, when's the last time we rejoiced over somebody that repented? We go to church and others go to church across this country all the time. But what I'm not seeing is a bunch of rejoicing over people coming to the Lord because we're not seeing it. I'm just being as honest as I possibly can. We're not seeing it. And I'm not saying it's necessarily my fault or your fault. I'm just saying we're not seeing it. I went to another church before I come here for 4 years, and guess what we didn't see there? We didn't see the same thing. We didn't see people coming to the Lord. And it's always bothered me because we here it says twice we should be rejoicing when somebody comes to the Lord. We just haven't found much of a chance to rejoice. Because I think we're waiting for him to come in that door. We're waiting for the sinners to just all of a sudden one day wake up and say, hey, guess what? I feel like going to church today. In most cases, it don't happen that way. Paul was put to his knees on the road to Damascus for God to get his attention. God got my attention because of my whole life and my family was falling apart. They're not just going to come through the door. There may be some that do, but based on the recent examples, that's not happening. They ain't coming in here in droves. So what does that mean? We have to go out there. In whatever way is necessary, we have to tell them about the gospel. We have to do it. I want to be passionate tonight, guys. I want to be passionate. And the last one that he mentioned was the prodigal son. And this one, to me, we're going to spend a little bit more time with it than we did the other two because it's very, very special. because it also talks about those that once were children of God and left to do other things and then come back. And I want to say this now before I get in that parable. We serve an awesome God. We serve an awesome God because if God was a God of, hey, you make one mistake, you're out, I'd be out a lot. But our God, through these parables and through Him talking and illustrating in His Bible about what He wants from us, He's telling us, I understand you're going to make some mistakes in life. I understand that you're going to fall. Well, let me tell you this, I'm a God of love and I love you. And even when you come back and you fall, I'm going to love you just as much and we're going to rejoice in that just as much. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? When we're telling people about the gospel, when we're telling people about Jesus Christ, we can tell them that story. You want to share with somebody? Share these 3 parables with them. Because it covers it all. Those who don't know in receiving, and those that do know that went away and come back. We serve a mighty God. A mighty God. Let's read this together. And think about this as Jesus is talking to this group of people. And it says, Jesus continued. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, Father, give me my share of the estate. So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. Let me tell you something, that's hunger. Right? He's hungry for the food the pigs were eating. That's hunger. And I'm a professional eater. And that's hunger. But no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and he went to his father. But this is so powerful, and I want you to really pay attention to this and highlight it in your Bible if you haven't already. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. And he ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine, which was dead, is alive again, and he was lost and is found. So they begin to celebrate. Let's stop there. So they begin to celebrate. I'm going to tell you tonight, as earnest as I can, that's me. That's me. I was raised in this church from the time I was old enough to even be here. I don't know how soon after I was born I was here, but I'm pretty sure it's quick. Quick. Yeah. I was raised in church my whole life. I was a big part of the youth group of this church. Many of you were here at that time. And about 19 years old, I decided I was grown enough and man enough to do whatever I wanted to do, and that's pretty much what I did. And for the next 20 plus years, I hardly ever darkened the church. Does that sound familiar? The prodigal son? I knew where it was. And God, I pray that as our kids grow up and they don't go to church or whatever, they find it like we should do. But God touched me and said, get back to my business. And I'm so glad He did. But some of us don't stay in church forever. Some of us don't stay there from the time we're born to the time we leave. Sometimes we have to be called back. And sometimes God's got to knock us down on the ground like He did Paul and say, hey, get back in church. Get back to doing my work. I've got a plan for you. And the truth is, church, I'm the one that's lost. I was the one that God left the other 99 for to come find me. And the truth is, every single one of us was the one that was lost. What if he didn't? What if he was busy doing something else? What if he didn't care enough for me? But the truth is, he does. And there are others in our world, in our town, in our city, in our country that are out there just like I was. That just don't know. And sometimes God does knock us to our knees, but sometimes he needs us to do it or wants us to do it. Are we willing to do it? We get so consumed in everyday stuff of the world. I'm just like everybody else, and you're just like me. Your days can be taken up with anything that comes across. It could be taking kids to ball games. It could be working all day long. It could be out of town. It could be whatever. But I spend very little time talking to others about the gospel outside of church. If we're going to change this world, it's going to need God. It's going to need people with Jesus Christ in their hearts and their minds. We talked about it last Sunday. If that was the case, we wouldn't be seeing all the stuff we see today. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago about what you see on Facebook and the news. Who knows what is true? Well, guess what? If Jesus was in our lives, you would know what was true. Because there's only one truth. We're going to make the world a better place. It starts with Jesus Christ. So let's continue to read. This is a good explanation for it all. It says, meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come home, he replied, and your father has killed a fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in, so his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, in all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders, that you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitute, comes home, you killed a fatted calf for him. My son, the father said, this goes back to the 99 and 1. Okay? Remember that. My son, the father said, you are always with me. And everything I have is yours. So when I talked about in the first parable about what about the 99, why did he leave the 99? This answers that question. The father said, you're always with me, and everything I have is yours. It's really, really important. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. I want to celebrate those that were lost and now found. I want to join you in celebrating those that were lost and now found. I want us as a church to celebrate those who repent. I want us, whenever we have somebody that repents, that we sing and rejoice in that. Because it's a big deal. It's life-changing. It can put people in the straight and narrow to where they can touch other people's lives. We have to make a big deal out of people accepting Jesus Christ. So I have a few questions before we close out tonight. And I'm not asking them to you specifically, and you don't have to answer. We can open up the discussion if you want to after this. But if there's some questions that I have about this that are in my mind, that's maybe in your mind, and let's walk through them real quick. First question is, where are the lost? Somebody tell me. This world? Is there a shortage of people that are lost? The Bible tells us the field is white for harvest, right? You think that was just only a momentary time in history when God meant that? He means it all the time. He understands in this world there's always going to be sin in this world, and there's always going to be an opportunity to share the gospel. Always. That goes back to what I said a little bit earlier. I just don't think the lost people are just going to come walking in the door one day. They're out there, and we're going to have to get to them. Another question is how do we reach them? How do we reach them? I know we've had a lot of conversations, especially with the COVID-19 stuff going on, and making plans about the future of the church. What are we going to do? How are we going to get back? We're still in phase 2. We're waiting to see what happens next. There's a lot of questions, right? I think every one of our questions ought to start with, how do we reach the lost? How do we reach the lost? Because once we get them in here, and they do come to church, or any church, we got to be able to foster that, right? We got to be able to keep on with them. We got to keep on discipling them or whatever. But the first thing we got to do is find who's lost and get them in here, right? So anything we do going forward, we need to ask ourselves that question: how do we find the lost? How do we reach out to the lost? And that's a good question, because if I had the answer, I'd be having a different discussion with you tonight. I'd be telling you how to find them and what we need to do. But honestly, all of you are like me. We've been doing this a long time. It's hard to get out there and find them. It's hard to get people to come to church, right? So we need to talk about that. We need to pray about that, because as a church, I can almost promise you, if that's what we're doing, the rest of it will fall into place. Do you agree with me on that? If that's what we're doing, if we're looking for the lost and finding the lost and introducing God to them, everything else falls into place. It's real important. Real important. Another tougher question is this: are we committed to finding them? I do a lot of presentations, and I talk a lot. And some of the stuff you talk about, we call it fluff, right? It's a lot of stuff you talk about. It sounds really, really good, and you build a lot of people up. It's called fluff in a presentation. Well, this is where the fluff ends. We can talk about finding them. We can talk about reaching them. But you can't do any of that unless you're committed to it. And that's what I'm asking tonight for myself, as well as our church. Are we committed to the lost? That's a tough question. That's a tough question. This lesson tonight was a little bit different for me, because usually on Sunday nights I try to do some uplifting stuff. And I don't think this is not uplifting, but I wanted to change it a little bit tonight. I hope it's a little bit more thought-provoking, because the truth is, I see everything you guys see. I see the social media, I see the news, and I try to turn off of as much as I can. But I worry about the world. I wonder about where we're coming as a country. I absolutely celebrate the 4th of July, and I'll continue to do it. But if we really want to change the country, you know as well as I do, and everybody here can agree, we need Jesus. And that's not going to happen because we wish it to. That's going to happen because we roll up our sleeves and we find those who are lost. We step out from the 99 and find the one that's lost. You've seen the pictures over the years, right? Of Jesus coming back with the lamb across his shoulders. He didn't find the one and just spend all his time with the one. He took the one back to the 99, right? There's direction in that. There's direction in that. But you know what? That one sheep or lamb that's out there, is he vulnerable when he's by himself? So are we. When we refuse God and get away from him and do all the things we talk about, we're out there and we're vulnerable. The devil is there to steal, kill, and destroy, always. You're no better than I am. He doesn't favor you better than me. He wants to kill you too. He wants to destroy you too. Period. That's his plan. He has different tactics. We fall for all of them. But the truth is, when we're out there, when we're on an island and we're by ourselves away from God's people, we're going to be vulnerable. And you ask the question, what does that mean? Well, guess what? If the people that call him Jesus are not here in church, then they're going to be vulnerable. Because when you're separated from the 99, you're creating that environment. God wanted us to assemble for a reason. He talked about it all throughout the Bible of us. Do not forget to assemble together. And there's a reason for that, because we're part of the 100 sheep. And when I pull myself away and I go away from that group or that flock, I'm out there by myself. There's lions and there's tigers and there's bears, snakes coming at me. This is truly powerful parables by Jesus. And anything that's mentioned and read in that Bible, we better pay close attention to, because it's so true. He didn't speak just for fluff. He spoke so we can learn. Church, we must gather together. We must band together and find those that are lost. If we do that, it's going to multiply itself. If we have 160 people on a good Sunday here when we're up in the sanctuary, and everybody did that, how long do you think it would be for us 320 people in there? You know, a lot of times you don't have to be a mathematician. You can just look at the evidence. If everybody did that, and I'm not saying they're going to be successful all the time, and I'm not saying they're actually going to come here to church. I don't care where they go to church. But what I'm saying is, if we do that, starting here at Liberty Grove, you may say, hey, why don't some of the bigger churches do it? They got a lot more people. They got a lot more people. It'd be a lot better for them. I don't think God's up there doing that. I don't think He's thinking, hey, Liberty Grove, y'all hang back. There's some churches that got 700 people. Let them do all that work. This community has people in it up and down this road, and every road you live on that don't know Christ. The light is always brighter the darker it is. Is it dark? Yes. Do we have the light? Yes. So I wanted to share that with you tonight because that's Jesus' way of responding to them, because they lost sight, the religious leaders of the time lost sight of the original intent of why God was involved in their life in the first place. It become about power. It become about what they wanted, how they wanted it to be. And He was trying to tell them, you're here. You're a religious power. I'm worried about the persons that don't know me. That's who I'm worried about. And we should be too. The light is always brighter the darker it is. So what do you think tonight? Those last three questions. Where are the lost? Right? Are we committed? And I want you to think about that. I'm going to think about it all week. I've already had a conversation tonight about that. Are we committed to it? And if we are, what do we do? Because to be honest with you, I'm past talk. Aren't you? Aren't you ready for action in this country? Aren't you ready to see something positive happen in this country? Aren't you tired of hearing all the same stuff? Well, guess what? In our world, we can make a difference. We can make a difference in somebody in this community. We can make a difference, a major difference in somebody's life. And I want you to think about the joy and the peace that you experience. I want you to think about why you're here tonight. Listen, it's raining outside. And before that, it was hot outside. It's cool in here. Everybody that's home, it's cool in here. We're fine. But the truth is, you're here because you want that experience. You know that Jesus is real, right? You know He's out there. You know He's tugging at your heartstrings to do things. You know that. That's why you're here. Don't you want to share that with somebody? Don't you want somebody to see what you feel inside? Don't you want them to experience that? Jesus wants us to, and we should want to, including me. I'm not preaching to you, I'm preaching to me. There are people out there that are probably coming around you, waiting for you to say something. Maybe we don't. Let's make a point to say something. Let's band together as Liberty Grove Church of God. And when people talk about Liberty Grove Church of God, I want them to hear say, you know what? That is a God-fearing, God-loving church. If you want to hear about Jesus Christ, all you got to do is let them know. Anybody in that church will tell you. We have a powerful church. We're as good or better than anybody else around. God just wants us to share. I don't care where you go to church. I don't care how often you go to church. God just wants you to share. And if we do that, we can change the world. And we're not ones to get on a platform. We're not the ones to get up there and say all this stuff because we're passive in nature, because Jesus teaches us to love, not to hate. And we don't have to get on a platform. We just need to be obedient. And I ask you to think about it this week. Think about it as you go about your week. Are you finding those opportunities to talk to somebody, and are we going to make that conversation? And you're going to get rejected, and that's okay because Jesus Christ got rejected all the way to the cross. And I don't think it's going to happen to us. If we get rejected, you just go to the next one. Because there's a whole bunch of people that need to hear about Jesus Christ. So please just consider that as you go through your week. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Kelly?
God's been talking to me for about a month. And He said, I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want you to get out there and get out there. And I want
Let me get your microphone. It's hard to hear you.
I've got a brother that I spend a lot of time with that was homeless 6 months ago. And I've been spending a lot of time with him, doing stuff with him, taking him places. We spend time in the woods down at the camp and stuff. And I've never even mentioned Christ to him. And that's on me. But this week I'm gonna jump on it. I'm gonna try to get him to our next service, maybe Wednesday night. But I don't know why we're so held back to talk to people about Christ, to fill the church up. I don't understand why we're so reluctant to, even a family member that I've known all my life. But I'm going to talk to him this week. Thank you for your message tonight. Now, God's been working on me for about a month. You know, as Christians, when we meet Jesus face to face, that's going to be a glorious day right there. He's got mansions built for us, streets of gold. But God's been telling me to sing a song, and I haven't sang that song. And he's been working on me about that. And I've been sitting back there all night just like, man, why don't I just sing that song? So I'm going to sing it tonight a cappella without even any music. I've got the CD to it, and I've got the music to it, and the backup to it. But I don't care. I want the message heard. I think God wants, somebody needs to hear this message. So I've been holding back, but I ain't holding back tonight. I'm going to sing this song. And it's about when we meet our Jesus face to face one day. How we struggle in life sometimes, but we come back to him. And that's kind of what this message was kind of hitting at me tonight when you were saying we struggle and then we come back. But it's called Face to Face. And a cappella, it may not sound real good, but listen to the message. Don't listen to the words. Don't listen to the sound. Listen to the message. Oh, I'm a traveler, far from home. I get lost, but I press on. 'Cause there's a mansion and streets of gold where I belong. Oh, there's a day, it's coming soon, where the old will be made new, and heaven's glory will shine like the morning before our eyes. When we all see Jesus, when we all see Jesus, no more sickness, no more madness, no more pain. When we all see Jesus face to face, then we will sing with angel voices. There will be a great rejoicing. Holy, holy, worthy, worthy is the Lamb. Oh, when we all see Jesus, when we all see Jesus, no more sickness and no more madness and No more pain when we all see Jesus face to face.
Are you glad to be in the house of the Lord tonight? That was a special, special treat. And everybody here, Darren, you got something? It's hard to hear in here, so we'll get some mics so you can come up. You got that pretty blue shirt on with us.
I hadn't had one of these about 4 months. You know, the parable we just saw about the lost sheep, and it just came to me. A dear friend of mine, Rocky East, is a pastor at Westlake Church of God many years ago. We keep talking about the 99 and 1. And the one thing Stacey brought up tonight, I remember before the COVID hit, man, we was rock and roll with 160, 170 people. Amen? I mean, it was a family atmosphere. We had it all. The devil just jumped in there with all this right here. It really has. Now look around tonight, and what Rocky told me years ago is coming to play. That Rocky said what really hurt his ministry was the 99 and 1. He went chasing the people who didn't want to be at church. Does that make sense what I'm saying? He went chasing the people, I would say, part-time church goers. He went chasing those people because, you know, who they were and their status and stuff. He kept chasing those people that he forgot about the 99. He forgot about the 99. And he said within that 99, there's lost ones. Does that make sense? I've heard stories. My grandpa went to church all his life and he didn't get baptized till he's 80-something years old. There are people lost right here. And I think too many times if people want to be at church, they will be at church. Amen? Now, I understand the COVID thing and stuff like this, but we all have Facebook and we see what everybody's doing. If Sister Mary, as old as she is, can make it here, Sister Ann, we can... I mean, seriously. And we got back to Stacy's question. Is it a commitment problem? Yes, it is. It's not a passion anymore. Where's the commitment? If you want to be here, be part of the 99. We do have responsibility for the lost. Because if you're lost, you want to be family. If you're lost, you want to be family. And we got too many people, if they want to be part of the 99, they can come. And that's the way I believe, and I've been holding it back. And what Stacy said has been on my heart, my heart's been stirred tonight, is that, you know, it keeps coming to me, and I brought this up several times. We keep saying we're praying church. We're praying church. When's the last time we all got together and prayed? When's the last time we all got together and prayed for that lost person? When's the last time we have? You can't tell me there's not an answer to prayers. Look at this Pay family right here. Look at them here. Kathy's prayed for Tall how long? Prayed. Then you look back here, you see the Blackstock family. That's prayer right there. You got mom and dad on each end, you got the kids right in the middle. That's what it's about right there. The 99. Building each other up, praying for each other, being strong. And like Stacey said tonight, once we leave out of here, then we find those others. Well, what's your passion tonight? What is your passion tonight? Do we have that passion in us anymore? The devil's thrown us a wrench the last 3 months. This COVID and the way everything's going. And I talked to Stacy today and I'm saying, why aren't our churches full? Why aren't they full? I mean, people are marching the streets, protesting, and looting, and our whole world's changing. To me, this is almost worse than 9/11. It really is. The people are not here. They are lost in a sense. They choose not to be here. And I don't know how you're going to close out anything like that, Stacey. I have no idea. But Kelly, if you come back up here. Come back up here. Guys, let's all stand up. And I mean, I'm no way outline. I'll give me a mic, and that's what I do. But tonight, as a church family, Brother Joey said today, these altars are right here, around this front right here. Right here around this front is altars right here. These altars are not used enough. Amen? These altars are not used enough because each one...